Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining me. This is my next author interview. Today I am very excited. So I have an old friend of mine, Ricky Mailhot, who's just come out with their debut novel. So I guess Ricky, I'll kick off right here. Tell everybody, what you write and what your novel is about.
And this is gonna tag into like later on when we talk about self-publishing, but I write whatever the hell I want. And
Okay.
that's kind of the beauty of it. Like I mean, I know you have, but I'm sure other people listening have as well, who like do any amount of research into traditional publishing. Like the more you stay in a lane, the easier you are to sell.
Right.
So if you've written 10 science fiction horror novels and you write an 11th love story about Ireland, um, you could have a whole team of people and they'll look at you like you're crazy.
Yep.
Like, how dare you color outside of the lines? So, my I write whatever the hell I want. The first book I ever wrote is a contemporary young adult fantasy novel called The Amazing Mrs. Cadabra.
Okay.
My second novel, which is it's completely done. It's not a sequel. It is a contemporary. Um, what's the word I would use? Probably like provincial horror movie. So like
Okay.
northern New England kind of small town, straight up horror from the first page of the first chapter. It's a horror novel, um, and I'm thinking about writing like a domestic mystery next. Like it's whatever the heck I want.
Okay. So you kind of, I like it. All right. Yeah. So you pretty much just write whatever kind of comes to you and forget the genre, forget sort of, whatever avenue. Like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
like I want to write what I if I think of a story and I go, oh, because we all do this, every writer does this.
Mm-hmm.
Like you think of a story and you go, oh, that'd be really fun to write one day. I want all of that out of my system. I don't want to think about these like could have been, should have been stories that I have. I want to just get them out into the universe and tell them. And so if I think of a story from the perspective of a badger that Jesus pet one time, and then I want to do it. Like I
Yeah.
want to do whatever I want to do, and I'm going to make it the best that I can make it. That's not to say that like I'm a solipsistic writer on an island and whatever I think is just brilliant. It's not that. It's like if I think it has legs and it has character and it has something that is entertaining to me,
Yep.
I want to be entertained as much as I want to entertain other people. And if I'm writing it and at any point in time it feels like a slog or it's uncomfortable or I don't like it. I just don't like what I'm doing. I don't want to write that. So I'm attracted to stories that I find interesting, and that's pretty much my process. What I want to do.
Okay. Oh, so with that, obviously, Mrs. Cadabra is the first one. Uh, and so you mentioned you said it was YA. You said contemporary fantasy.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
So like kids in our world experiencing magic,
Okay.
and that's the veneer. The
Okay.
veneer of the story is like, oh boy, wouldn't it be fun to have magic? The reality of the story is a little bit more written by a 37-year-old man, in that I I wanted to have kids because okay, let me let me just
Yeah.
start like this. If you watch any Netflix movie, if you watch any movie period, Disney Channel, wherever the heck you see it, of kids getting magic powers, it's always like, wow, isn't this great?
Yeah.
And then maybe it fills their room with glitter or something stupid, or maybe it's a nuisance at most. But I really wanted to see the idea of like, wow, look at what we got. This has the potential to ruin my life. I don't want anything to do with this.
Right. And,
And so when they're faced with the responsibility of what they have, it's terrifying, because I remember being that as a little kid. It wasn't just like, if you walk the dog, we'll get a dog. When I was faced with my first moments of like, if you don't do this, you might not eat tonight.
Mhm.
If you don't do this, you might not survive. Those moments that hit us as adults of these responsibilities that are bigger than we are, I wanted to confront kids with that and see like, how they would react and put them in uncomfortable situations where all of a sudden, not only do they have magic, but in the story, they have magic that is ancient magic, that is regal magic, that is magic that comes with a responsibility. The person who had this before you was like a president. They did great things and they saved people. And the person that had that before them was a tyrant who did horrible things. And now you have this power. What are you going to do? And their answer is like, I give it back. This is not what I want. And then when they're faced with opportunities to make decisions about, well, I guess we could affect positive change for the people of this planet that we're visiting. Like, wouldn't that be a good thing? And those types of moral questions and dilemmas. And that's where the story became a lot more than kids with magic to me. It became something of more of a reflection of like the first time I was given responsibility and how I didn't embrace it. I didn't get bit by a spider and start solving crimes. I didn't join up with World War II and get a super soldier serum. Those things didn't happen to me. I was faced with responsibility and I ran. But in their case, they run away from responsibility and into the danger of the story. And then that's where they realize like what they're capable of and who they can become.
Interesting. Okay. And so I find it interesting that your characters tend to be kind of the opposite of what I see a lot, which you kind of hinted at, which is like the typical Marvel or what you see nowadays where a person gets the powers and it seems like with most TV, most movies today, there's not a lot of growth in these characters. Like the whole growth is the magic was inside of you, the growing was inside of you all along. Not you have to measure up to this. Not this thing is dangerous and you need to become a better person to wield it better. It's usually, hey, you were good all along and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And so I think with you, kind of these characters being presented with this sort of responsibility and realizing the gravitas of that and what it entails and dealing with that is not something I've necessarily seen a whole lot in movies anymore.
But I think you you touched on it. Those are characters, and when human beings are put in these situations, it's always Abraham Lincoln was great from day one. Boy, howdy, he was great. I bet he never had self-doubt. Like, no, these people were probably riddled with self-doubt, and through their actions and with the passage of time, we put them on pedestals and talk about how great they are. But the average person put in an extraordinary situation, they're not just going to be tested. They're probably going to fail several of those tests. And I don't know, that to me makes a character more endearing. I don't want to, I like writing about a person who makes heroic decisions, not a hero. A hero is an all-encompassing, I'm always making the right decision. I'm the first one to run into the fire. I'm smiling in the face of danger. A hero is, that's a hero. A normal person, they may run into the fire, but like in their head, it is terror, it is doubt, it is fear. And those are the types of characters that I enjoy reading about the most, the ones that struggle to be good and are great anyway, rather than, well, boy, howdy, I got bit by a spider and then my uncle died. I guess I'm a good person now.
Right, exactly.
And then they're a good person forever. And you know what? It is unfair to lay that all in the feet of Spider-Man. There have been lots of arcs where he has experienced personal growth and he has been tried and tested. But a lot of that came like long after he was established as this like just all around friendly neighborhood great guy. And so I want to see, like, there's a part in the book where there's a girl who has the typical helicopter mom, but not a mean one, not a villainous mom of like get your homework done, but like I know you're so great and you're so perfect and I love you so much that I am in awe of how great you are. And I'm just going to let you go be you, because what could I add? I'm just your parent, but I'll support you and love you, but from a distance, because I want to give you the freedom to be as great as I know you are. That's a real parent. And that's incredible amount of pressure to put on a kid. And so one of the things she says in the book when she's talking to her friends is, I'm sick and tired of being special. And then they meet a mentor character who hears this talk. And she says, like, sweetheart, one of the things you're going to learn as you grow up is being special is often the worst thing that can happen to you. And so I like the idea of like some 9-year-old, some ninth grader reading my book and then being challenged with this idea of like, oh, Harry Potter, I wish I could be Harry Potter. Harry Potter's a tragic character.
Right.
He had a lot of messed up stuff happen to him. He had a lot of cool stuff happen to him, and he got to do some cool things. But I want that to be more in equilibrium. The balance of they are doing cool things, and they do by the end get to help people and make heroic decisions. But it comes at the cost of a lot of self-analysis and teamwork, and whether or not you can even do it in the first place.
I like that. So we kind of gone over, I guess, the genre of it and what differentiates it from a lot of the books. But for, I guess, everyone that's watching it, right, what is the book about? Like a quick synopsis of the book.
Sure. So you can. The first chapter is available if you go on Netflix. Good Lord. If you go on Amazon and you go to like the book itself, you can say like look inside. The whole first chapter is right there, and it gives you a real idea of like who the three characters are in preview. So if anyone hears this and they think to themselves like, I want to know what this book is like, what is the heart of this book? The first chapter is for free. Go read it. It is there's three principal characters: Hannah Halpern, Shrinithi, and Gil. Two girls and a boy. I thought that was fun too, doing two girls and a boy rather than two boys and a girl.
Right.
And they are all mysteriously invited to a magic show. They each have a different ticket, and they go to it says the theater. You'll know when you get there. They go to this location in Boston, and it's an empty street, and it's raining. The theater appears out of nowhere, and they go and they see a magic show by the amazing Mrs. Kadabra, and she demonstrates for them this great, powerful magic. Her cape, her wand, her hat, they're all different magical relics. And by the end of the show, she confesses that she's dying and that she's giving one of these each magical objects to each kid. So instead of passing all three on to the next person, she's passing them to three. And then there lies in the mystery of where did these magic relics come from? Why are they given to three different people? Why did she make this decision? All of this is going to be revealed throughout the course of the book. But the heart of the story is three kids in turmoil find themselves being handed the keys to magic. And then all of that, what we just talked about, deciding whether or not they're worthy of it, thinking they're not, and then trying to give them back, and the adventure that ensues, and maybe even the villain who's trying to take them for themselves, and what are their motivations, and how does that reflect their adult perspective on the world. So it's people given responsibility that they don't think they're ready for, and then thrust into a world where it's just all responsibility.
Yeah, I like that. Pretty much, good personification really of adulthood. So
right, for real. For real. I know it's like I'm writing a book about 3 14-year-olds. They're all 14. That's part of the story. 3 14-year-olds, and but I'm writing it from the lens of a 37-year-old man who's like, from 16 years old to now, I had life dumped on me. I was hurled out of the house at 16 years old.
Oh, really?
I was hurled out of my house at 16 years old. Lived in my car for a little bit. Not really proud of that, but it happened. And so my perspective on responsibility has been life just kind of happens to you sometimes. And you can literally read that on the back of the book when you go to the description. Hannah feels life is something that happens to you, not something that you get to experience. And so when I was writing this book, a lot of, I don't want to say like all the trauma, but like all those things that I saw and felt came out through the characters of like, wow, the world is way bigger than me, and I don't have a choice as to how big it is.
Wow. Okay. I like that. And you were able to pull from that your own personal experience, which is awesome. I mean, like they always say, like the best stories come kind of from like your trauma.
Sure.
Professor of mine, Wally Cash, had once said that the book that you're scared to write because you have some connection to it is the book that you need to write. And so it sounds like you've taken that advice and gone pretty much full board with it, which is excellent.
Well, and you when you're writing a long form novel, I mean, what is this bad boy? When it finally came out, like I knew that I had written like 93,000 words, and I knew the average American novel was 80,000 words. But when you see like the size of the print and where it ends, 360 pages, I was like, wow, that's kind of beastly for my first book. I especially indie books. Usually when you buy an indie book online, you get it and it's like 120 pages and thin.
Oh yeah. Yep.
But I when I got my book and I realized how long it was. So, but when you're writing a longer project like that, I don't want to say like, you fill in the blank spaces. That's not what I'm saying. But like, you find yourself pulling from what you see around you and then inserting it into the story because they're things that you want to talk about at that moment in time. And I didn't realize it until I was rereading it a couple weeks ago before it went to print. There is a pretty strong condemnation of Civil War statues in my book. And I guess I'd written it like knowing what I felt at the time, but going back and reading it, I was like, God damn, like I had some strong opinions on that. There's a whole part of the book that's about legacy, and the witch that gave them the objects received them from someone else, and so on and so forth. And that goes back thousands of years that these witches have been giving this hat, this cape, and this wand to the next witch, and so on and so forth. And now that you have it, you can do whatever you want. There are no expectations, so do what you want with these things. And if you go back to witches, there's one that literally nuked a planet, an entire living planet of creatures and living things and people and species and cultures, and she wiped it off the face of the planet. And that is one of the talking points of the book. Like, this horrible thing happened. And so at one point they're in a secret garden of homage to the witches. So each garden plot is representative of one of the witches that came before. And there are 14 in total. 14? That's their age. That's interesting. It all goes in the book. But there are 14 witches in total. And one of the witches, this is the one that nuked the planet, and her statue is destroyed. All the other witches and their statues are there, and they all look heroic, and they all reflect their personality. But this one witch, her statue is annihilated. And, the woman who's taking them on the tour says, I can't bring myself to rebuild it again because, statues, this represented a pretty awful thing that happened. And one of the main characters says, why don't you want people to remember though? And she says, like, statues, I can't remember the exact phrasing, but she says something like, statues don't, like, do you think they need a statue to remember? All the statue does is remind them of the pain. That's all it does. Everybody remembers what happened. It's just the statue reminds them of the pain that they feel. And I was like, God damn, like, I apparently have a very negative opinion of Civil War statues to put that in my book. But like, a lot of you in a long form novel, you can't help it. Like, it starts leaking into the text.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. Your stories will always carry a little bit of you, always slips into it. You can never write a story absent your own opinions ever. It's impossible.
I don't know. I mean, read Twain. Like, you literally can't.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's a good example of someone that goes to that very extreme edge, which is awesome. But even the most mundane of things. What was it? I think it was Hunter S. Thompson who once said that outside of sports columns and box scores, there's always going to be the author's personality in every article that someone writes. It's the same thing when it comes to the books as well. But I want to know now, you've already gone over, I think, some of the reasons why you went self-publishing route. Mainly, you can kind of choose your own adventure in a sense. You can basically, hey, I feel like writing this. I can write this genre. I can write this genre next. You're kind of unrestricted. I think you mentioned the word count of your book as well. You get a chance to do a longer word count that maybe is a little bit, that would be harder to sell maybe if you were trying to go traditional. Any other benefits though? Any other reasons why perhaps you went the self-publishing route over like the traditional route?
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay.
So I'm awful at this. There was a documentary. I believe you can still watch it on Hulu because I believe it was a Hulu production. It was about women who wrote like smut, for lack of a better term. They wrote romance novels, however you want to call it. But I believe some of them even called it that. So I'm not trying to be offensive.
No, it's actually a category of book. Yeah,
sure. But like, so there are women who have made a fantastic, unrealistic amount of money selling $2.99, $2.50, $3.99 copies of these books online that are just sexy books. And one of them, that's not the point of the story. One of them was transforming into being a traditionally published author. She was finally getting it, like she's getting the nod. And she, after years, like literally a millionaire based off of selling books on Amazon for $3.99 a piece. That's impressive.
Oh, wow.
Beyond all get out.
Yeah.
But she's selling her book to a publisher now, and they came back with a pile of notes. Change this, change that. This guy should be taller. This guy should be shorter. Her hair should be blonde. Mm-hmm. And she had such a equanimous response to it that terrified the bejesus out of me, where she said, well, at first it was alarming because these are all my babies, but I realized it's their book now. They bought it. That greatly upset the artist inside of me, of like, because we all have this fantasy of like, giant company descends from the heavens, the clouds part, angels sing, they touch your head, and all of a sudden you're anointed an author.
Yep.
And then your creation, as you know it, as you saw it, is slipping and sliding through the pipes of their giant corporation, comes out identical as to where you left it into the hands of someone who wants to read it. And that is just not true. It is a series of blenders that your work passes through to chop it up, remove things. This isn't sexy enough. This is too sexy. And they're going to change what they want to because it's true. They bought the book. It is their book now. Ooh, and you're just the guy that wrote the version of the book that they bought, and now they want to make changes, and you can't say anything about that. And I have a fear, a genuine fear, and this is you know, I don't want to get political, but I have a fear of someone telling me you can't write that character because you're not of that ethnicity, or you're not of that race, or you don't have that opinion, or that opinion's not good. And this is the realness of it. I'm not just saying like general nonsense. I want to explain what I mean. Mm-hmm. One of my main characters, her name is Shrinithi. That's a real little girl I met when I worked at a kindergarten. I was a kindergarten teacher in another life. Yep. And she was this bright-eyed, beautiful, just smart little girl, smart as a whip. And what do you know? I'm writing a 14-year-old named Shrinithi, who is a beautiful, bright-eyed, smart girl. And Shrinithi means scholar. So, like, the name even means the personality type that I gave her and the personality of the girl that I met. So, like, in reality, I'm writing about a person that I knew. I'm not trying to make like political statements about her race. It's a girl who I knew who happened to be Indian and had the name Shrinithi, and I thought it was beautiful and I want to write about it. What if someone got a hold of this book from HarperCollins or Scholastic or whatever and said, we love the book, everything's perfect, don't change a thing. What if Shrinithi was Sophia because Mexicans are really popular right now? And I'm like, well, that's not the girl that I knew. That's not the little girl that I met that I remember when I think about the name. And I don't necessarily, well, we bought the book, so we'd like it to be Sophia. Mm-hmm. Yikes. And then let alone the fact that like maybe your book gets purchased by someone whose political ideologies don't align with yours. And then maybe something like I said about the statue in the book is something that like, statues aren't very hot right now. So how about we make it like there's like magical instruments playing in the garden and each one represents a person. And then these instruments keep getting broken. So we can get close, but it's not directly statues. That's not why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this because I have delusions of grandeur that one day someone's, clouds part, angels singing, trumpets, and then I get to become an author. I am an author. I just haven't sold my book to an enormous company. And if there's anything that your viewers take from my ramblings today, it's that all you need to be a writer is to write. That's it. If you don't sell your books, if you don't self-publish your books, if you don't get picked one day by some stupid company, you're still a writer. It's whether or not you care about what you're putting into your writing that makes you a good writer. That's it.
I like that. And that's a good takeaway at the end there. Exactly right. Of, if writers write, you know what I mean? Like that is the main crux of anything else. You're exactly right. Is you attaching some additional qualifier to it. I'll be a real writer when I'll be a real author when this thing happens. Absolutely. And I've done that myself. I've gone through that. I mean, my entire process really that I vlog here is all about that. In
Yeah.
fact, in a lot of ways, I think that's kind of the evolution of what this whole vlog is going to be, is just seeing my attitude towards publishing and towards writing and what it means changing over the course of time. Because even a year ago, I was thinking differently. So I completely agree. So obviously, just keeping the creative control side of things, very big benefit of the self-publishing realm. So what was your journey like? Because I had like Ian M. Rogers on here before, who's talked about how he had several versions of he had to get first query the small publisher, and then he had to send in different drafts and go back, make edits and changes, a lot of collaboration. Doing this on your
Right.
own now, self-published, what was that like? Yeah, I imagine it's completely different.
I have absolutely no problem killing my darlings if it doesn't work, because
Okay.
I'm a thematic writer. Like,
Yep.
some people are they're really good at the just the excitement, and I like to think I'm an exciting writer too. I mean, we all want to say we're good at everything, but I think the heart of what I do is I have something I want to say and I'm going to say it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you stick to that credo, when you have that as your center, there's not a lot of notes you get from people on story.
True.
You just really don't, because it's, I don't know, like I don't know what type of person you'd need to have. I don't know what type of person you'd have to have critiquing you to say, like, I don't like it when you addressed that part about mothers and daughters. Like, what? Like, I'm philosophizing about the universe, man.
Yeah.
It's how I feel about the universe. Like, you can't tell me I'm wrong, but like, you might disagree with me, but like, that's the justification for the characters and their actions.
Yeah.
So I never really got a lot of, and I had a lot of beta readers. I had a lot of, I literally paid an editor to edit my work, and to do line edits and to help me.
Okay.
And as they were doing line edits, they're reading the book, so they're telling you what they think. And the feedback I kept getting unanimously was like, the story and the pacing are awesome. This is what I like to see. I have no notes. Like, this is great.
Yep.
There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's all logical. It all makes sense. I'm happy with it. The notes I was getting were like, this paragraph, I know exactly what you're trying to say, but this is clunky, so this should be fixed. This paragraph, I know exactly what you're trying to say, but it's clunky and it should be fixed.
Yeah.
And I have no arrogance when it comes to someone telling me I don't understand what you're saying. Mm-hmm. If someone says I don't like what you're saying, I can take it or leave it. But if someone says I literally don't understand what you're saying, that's the only time I get hot under the collar, and I feel like I need to, like, okay, I need to focus on that, because like I didn't convey what I was attempting to get across, or the sentence came out muddy or something. So the overall process was, I wrote the book. The very first draft came through a writers group that I was with, that you were in.
Oh yes.
That was where I, like, man, that was such a rough. That was the Tracy Ullman Simpsons compared to what the Simpsons became.
Yeah, that was.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I enjoyed my time there, but yeah, it was a rough several months.
But like, when you look at what I created during that time period, because I was writing Cadabra back then. But if you look at what I was creating during that time period, it was the Simpsons. It was the Tracy Ullman version of the Simpsons. Like, it almost looks like a parody of what they would become later on, what we know them as.
Yeah.
So it was clunky, it was ugly, but I finished a draft, and then I wrote an entire second novel, and I finished a second draft of Cadabra. And then I started editing the second novel, and then I went back and I edited Cadabra again. And then at that point, I started sending it to beta readers. And then with those edits, my fifth draft, if you're keeping count, that was what I sent to Ian M. Rogers, my editor. You can even go on Amazon. I gave him credit as editor. He was like, Amazon's a little too generous. It makes it look like multiple people wrote the book. And I'm like, shut up. I paid you. I can do what I want. Okay. And his work was excellent. But I paid him out of respect for our relationship, me and him. I will not identify the exact amount, but I will measure it in, it was about 3 video game consoles. And I'll leave it at that. which was completely fair. If you saw the work that he did, it was fantastic. It
Okay.
becomes a different book once you get an editor to do line edits for you and tell you what's.
It's hard. Yeah.
It's hard, and you literally become blind to your own issues when you're writing. So that feedback becomes invaluable. And so once he did that, now I'm in possession of his marked up in red everything that needs to be done. So what I did was I opened up 2 Word documents, his on the right and a blank one on the left. And I would read through what was changed, what needs to be changed, one chunk at a time, paragraph at a time, and I would copy it into a brand new document, and I would make the changes without the red ink. And I went through the entire book, chunk by chunk, just doing it like that.
Okay.
Moving it paragraph at a time over into this new, bigger document, which became the final draft. Then I sent that to a formatter because I'm an idiot and I don't know anything about book production. And, you can't just upload a Word document and have it look like a book.
Yeah.
It's got
a whole lot of work with that. Yeah.
It's got your name at the top and the book and the title in the other. And it's got the page number and it has like a beautiful title with custom font that was selected for you. All this stuff.
Yeah. A lot of the copy editing.
You need a cover artist. You need someone to do the cover art for you. And so I sent it off to a formatter, and she sent it back to me in book form. Mm-hmm. This is what it's going to look like in a book. Tell me if you have any notes or edits that need to be made, because I got to tell you, this is a secret that I've never heard before. You're getting it here first on Josh's channel.
Oh, wow.
When you have your book in a brand new font that you've never seen before, you were given your selections and you selected what would be best for the book, and you have your brand new font, you can spot your own grammatical and spelling errors from a friggin' helicopter. It's so different. It's so different. Because and I know you do, and you're going to share it with me right now. What is your go-to font when you're drafting?
When I draft, it's Times New Roman.
Calibri Light.
Oh, okay.
Everybody's got a flavor.
Yeah.
Everybody's different. There's no wrong answers as long as it's written. That's pronounced
Calibri?
I think so.
You're probably right. I pronounce it Calibri, and I'm honest.
Okay. I've been calling it Calibri.
No, you're probably right. You're probably the correct one. I pronounce things wrong. Like, Calibri. I get everything wrong.
I bet it's Calibri, but I don't care. I like it better. Calibri.
It's probably the right way to say it. Yeah.
But I like it. And so, but that font, my point is that font becomes like your language. And so it starts to blend together in your voice, and you miss a grammatical, usage here, or you miss a spelling here. It happens all the time.
Yep.
But when you see it like that, it is a totally different animal. When you can identify it from a new font, you're like, oh, it looks different. It feels different when you're reading it in the font that is going to be the final product.
Excellent.
So then when I had that, so then in brief, I paid a cover artist. I had it professionally edited. I had it formatted, and then bing, bang, boom, you've got all the components. And then all of a sudden, because you didn't do your own formatting, and I'm not a professional at that formatting, I can't do it. Once you've done all those things, and I will say this, in total, cover art, formatting, editing, it took me, I have the cash amount and I have the I have the time. Cash amount, about $1,600.
Okay.
About. So, and if that number scares anybody who watches this, if you consider it investing in the book, you put all this time in it, hundreds of hours, why would you at the finish line then start to pull your punches in terms of quality? Mm-hmm. It needs to look like a book. It needs to feel like a book. It needs to look like a goddamn book. So why would you pull your punches at the end? So around $1,600. The draft that I had was 68,411 minutes, which is 1,140 hours, which is 47 days worth of continual writing.
To get from like the first moment, like the first letter you typed to when you are done. No.
47 days worth of continual writing got this. That's what 47 days. So when you when you've got somebody or even yourself or even myself, if you're writing and you're thinking, I've spent so much time on this, oh my God, how much time? Just go over to file in your Word file, and it'll tell you the minutes that you've been working on it, and then you can tell yourself, you can log your own hours. So my first attempt at a book was 47 days, and my second book, I already looked. It's not even done yet. It's done. My second book is done, but there's one more chapter I want to insert, and I'm probably on like the third draft of it. I need to like clean it up quite a bit. I'm a 4-draft kind of guy. So I bet that book will probably be around somewhere like 55 days worth of time.
Wow.
So if you're ever looking for like a hard measurement of like, okay, what does it actually take? Well, if you could go on a desert island and lock yourself away for 47 days, you could leave with a fully formed book.
It's true. Yeah, you are factoring obviously time that wouldn't be able to sleep. So yeah, it'd be more like,
yes,
potentially like 60, mid 60s probably at least. But.
Right. And then none of that is all the times you're showering and thinking about dialogue.
And all the times you grow in between. The time.
Right. And all the times you drove and like you drove and then your wife gets in the car the next day and realizes you showed up at 11 o'clock last night and the radio's not on. And you were like, why was he not listening to the radio? It's because I was talking to myself for 2 hours. Okay. I had to just go over some ideas.
Like it. Excellent. And so when I was going to leave this interview, I wanted to ask you, the advice that you would give to someone that was looking to go through the self-publishing process, kind of things you took away from it. You went over, I think, a lot of the different things, but is there any lasting advice or anything like, if I'm going to go self-published, what should I do? Is there anything you could offer?
I'll give you two things. I'll give you one, I'll answer your question, and two, I'll talk about what happens after you self-publish.
Okay.
So when you're thinking about the self-publishing route, I want you to set aside, because I'm looking into your soul, God damn it. I can see deep into your soul and anyone who's watching this. There is this idea that I'm taking a lesser than route. I didn't get picked by the big company, so therefore I'm not as good as the books they put out. I must be worse. I have to do this because I'm not as good as the big blah, blah, blah. It's not true. It's not true. Okay. Right now, you could write the single greatest American novel that anyone's ever heard of, and you could query 100 times every day for the next year. And every single person that you query, you will be one of 1,000 query letters they got that day. The market is bananas right now. It's bonanza. The COVID especially, everybody got locked inside and said, I'm going to write my novel. Everybody did. Lots of people did. And the system that we have right now of like, I'm sending an anonymous letter as a nobody to someone who says, I'm going to, I'm going to represent you if your book is good enough. I've gotten some query letters back on Cadabra that were so conflicting in tone. I had to believe it was like just, they have like 6 different paragraphs and they stick them together and then just send it off. It was, and you'll read the first chapter and you'll get it. But I was sending people the first chapter because a lot of query places were asking for your first chapter. And my first chapter was, one of the notes I got back was, the dialogue isn't very strong, but the characters come across very strong. And when you read the chapter, you'll be like, it's literally all dialogue that lets you know who the characters are. So like, Did you read what I wrote? Because if you like their personalities, it was all dialogue, but you didn't like my dialogue anyway. Yeah. So if you're going the self-publishing route, you can still keep in mind that major publishing, being in like a Barnes and Nobles or something is attainable. It's absolutely attainable. There are huge authors. Oh my God, he's on my shelf right now. He wrote The Cabin at the End of the World. Damn it. I literally have it on my shelf, but my shelf is like
I've not read that one, so
I finish books and then I stick them further down in my shelf there it is. Paul Tremblay. Okay. Paul Tremblay he Cabin at the End of the World became Knock at the Cabin, which was directed by M. Night Shyamalan.
Yep.
Guy made it in no uncertain terms. The guy made it.
Mm-hmm.
What did he do? Ground away on self-publishing for his first couple books. Because here's the message that I have for you. If you are hesitant about self-publishing as if somehow it tarnishes your career or tarnishes the type of writer you want to be, self-publishing is actually you getting your foot in the door, putting yourself out there. You can meet someone. I today can meet someone on the street and go, "Oh, you're a writer? I'm a writer too. Wow, what do you write?" And then we can chat, and I can be like, "Yeah, go buy my book. It's on Amazon right now.
Yep.
I wrote it. Yep. Talk to me about it. What do you want to know? I'll tell you anything."
Okay.
Self-publishing gets you experience. If you're just hiding in a basement and you just have draft upon draft upon draft, but nothing coming from that, and you're not sending that to anybody because you're afraid of it. Or this is the other thing that I hear a lot, and I really want to challenge people's thinking about this, because I know it's not you, but someone out there thinks this. This is my one shot, and Lord help me, if I don't sell this to a major publisher, I'm never going to be nobody, because this is my one shot. Well, honestly, if this is your one shot, this is all you've got, are you really going to be a professional author anyway?
Good point.
Yeah. Because I like to play best case scenario, not worst case scenario. Worst case scenario is we both get aneurysms tonight and die. That's the worst case scenario.
Okay.
It's so easy to play worst case scenario. Best case scenario, Josh Bresslin, we want to buy your book.
Yep.
Hi, I'm from Scholastic. I love your book. Your book is the best damn book we've read all year, and I'm going to make you a star.
Oh, wow.
6 months later, your book, you're doing Good Morning America interviews. Everybody loves you. 6 months after that, your book is in its 30th printing. Boy, howdy, everybody loves Josh Bresslin.
Apparently.
Where's your next book, Josh? When's it coming out?
Oh, I've already got it typed up. But most people, if it's like your one-off. Yeah, exactly right.
Yes.
If it's your one book.
If this is it, if this is all I've got, and then I'm going to die happy. If this is it, then like if you make it big, that shit's going to dry up real quick, because like you can't do it again.
Yep.
So if you have your book and it's done and it's over, and you've earnestly tried to query and you want to move on, why live with this ghost in your heart? Excise the demon, put it in paperback, and then go write your next book, because I promise it's going to be better than this one.
That's a good point. No, that's good. I like that. Exercise the demon. That's a good way.
Exercise the demon. Like, I'm serious. For the first time in 3 years, I have not had the goddamn name Kadabra kicking around in my head, and it's euphoric. That's all my advice for someone before, though. This is the quick advice I have for someone after. Mm-hmm. We all have fantasies about being famous authors. All of us. Even if it's just, I just want to be a famous author so I can make more money so that I can then go write in peace.
Yep.
Even if that's all it is. Let alone the, like, oh boy, I'd love to work with Chris Pratt. Like, whatever. Everybody has those fantasies of how they imagine their career going if they could just design their career. I'm sure Stephen King, working at a Maine public school, thought to himself, like, boy, howdy, wouldn't that be great? That's what we do. But that's all fantasy, man. It's not real. Yeah. What is real is all of your friends and all of your family descending upon you with love and support the day your book comes out, telling you how proud they are of you, telling you how amazed they are that you were able to do this thing, because you and we're both industry nerds. We know all about the ins and outs of books, and to you and me, self-publishing means I'm a failure. I didn't do it. I'm a jerk. But to the layman, to everyone else on planet Earth, Jesus, you might as well have won the lottery. Yeah. They don't see it like you and I see it. They see it. The average person who doesn't write sees that I did that and goes like, God damn, you're a wizard, man. So like the ephemeral praise of, and then Michael Strahan will say, where do I get my ideas? All of that isn't real. What is real is that look in your friend's eyes when they go, I'm so proud of you, man. Like, I'm proud of you, and I bought your book. Here's my screen capture. That's real. And if you're thinking that, like, there's no fanfare, there's no clouds parting, angels ascending, trumpets blaring because your book came out, you're a lunatic, because all of the most important people in your life, your family, your friends, people who actually love you, they're so proud of you, and it's unreal. It's unreal. So if you think that the unreality of being a published author when you're showering and just like fantasizing about how great it could be, that is nothing compared to the people who actually care about you showing up and telling you that they love you and that they're proud of you. It's overcoming.
I like the wholesomeness of that. I enjoy the wholesome nature of that sort of idea.
Dude, it feels good. And like, imagine like for realsies, imagine going to Thanksgiving this year. Like, I'm going to go to Thanksgiving this year and my family's going to be just like, you did it, man.
Yeah.
And like, that's going to feel good. Like, they're going to want you to sign a copy of the book they bought off Amazon. That's crazy. Yep. Whereas if you hide, if you reserve yourself and you say like, not until I get picked, and you keep it to yourself, you'll never get that feeling. And like, I'm telling you, this is a motivation I never thought was possible.
I like it. Okay. Well, I gotta say, this has been I think as much of like a therapy session almost for me too, because like, you know, this is deciding to now go self-published with this first book here that's coming out later this year, and to avoid the traditional route for it has always been something that was like, all right, this is a secondary option, right? And I've had to slowly over time kind of come to terms with it, and this has helped me. I don't know if anyone else, but this has definitely helped me a bit. Thank you for that. Thanks.
Well, that's going to be so. I'm launching literally this week. I'm terrified.
Oh.
I'm launching my my own YouTube channel. It's going to be called All Sorts of Words.
Okay.
One word, All Sorts of Words. And I want to be this for everybody else. I want to be someone who says, like, if no one else, you know, thinks that what you're doing is great, I think what you're doing is great. I want to encourage writers to write. There's a lot of top 5 things you're doing wrong to mess up your novel. There's a lot of that. And I really want to be a person who encourages rather than puts down, and who I think self-publishing is something that I think it's a type of reward for a lot of people who feel unheard by major publishing, who maybe have crazy, wacky stories that self-publishing is too timid and stupid to see as great. And I want to see those books. I want those books myself, selfishly, as a reader. I want your crazy, wacky, whacked out road trip novel. I want it in my house, and I want to read it, and I want to enjoy it. And I want other people to know that too, that like, this is an option if you don't feel like you're getting the attention you deserve. And so I want to foster an environment where people can feel that.
I like that. All right. Well, good luck with that. And like I said, I hope everyone checks out your channel here. With that, I suppose we'll kind of move on to signing off here. And Amazing Mrs. Cadabra is your novel. It is now out on Amazon. It is in paperback, correct?
Paperback and Kindle.
It is Kindle. Excellent. Okay.
Yes. I launched it today.
Okay. That's I was gonna say, because I bought the kind of the early copy there. It was only paper. All right, I like that. It's very cool. So come check it out. With that, I will be signing off here. This is Josh Bresslin, and that's Ricky Mailhot. New book, Amazing Cadabra. Go check it out. All right. Bye, everyone.